What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Humble Hustle Project. I am your co-host, Jake and joined as always with my mans, Devin Jackson. How we doing today, man?
Yo, what's good, brother? Chilling.
Hey, man, it's been a crazy week, man. Tons of
It
stuff
has.
dropped, tons of drama in the news. Just a lot of world events going on, man.
Yeah, a lot of
And
sad events and good events. How's your week been?
dude, I gotta say it's been real busy. Education. We are in graduation season, so we're
Mhm.
just prepping for all that. Um, so it's been good. I can't really complain, but it's definitely been just a couple different projects here and there. Um, but I will say some new life updates. I just got. I don't know what the acceptance process really is, but
Mhm.
um, I got accepted to a credentialing program at the Harvard Business School. I think it's more of just the application process, and then you get into it.
Hey. Do, do,
So
do,
I
do.
appreciate that, man. So I'm just trying to learn more, right? And I think it's the part of the podcast, right? We just not really want to kind of refusing this concept of average and just always being a lifelong learner. So that's something new for me, man. And I logged into that program today actually, and I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, there's some language I have not heard of in a while, and yeah, man, it's definitely gonna be a different pace, and especially with the workload, I'm gonna have to be kind of be crossing my T's, dotting my I's, and all that jazz. So,
Yeah,
but
man.
I'm
I'm
excited
curious.
about it.
Do you guys get like summer off too with your because
Uh,
you're in education?
yeah, no. So basically, most of the students either persist right through summer and take summer courses.
Mhm.
But for staff, uh, faculty get an option, but for staff that run like programs like I do, it's just all the way through year round kind of thing. Um,
Cool.
yeah. So, but yeah, man. How's your week been?
My week's been all right, man. Just kind of just really focused on finding a flow and also sticking to like kind of piggybacking off the what we talked about last week or weeks prior to sticking to the habits that I've created and making sure that I'm on top of the little things every
Mm-hmm.
single day. I feel like that is when we spoke about Atomic Habits by James Clear, it really brought to the forefront things that I wasn't doing and I should be
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot more. Yeah, no matter what, it's always hard to be on top of everything 100% of the time. But I'd be lying if I said that I was giving 150% effort to everything I could be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just, being aware of where I want to go and what I was doing. And so just kind of like stepping up in areas that I feel like I should be doing. So,
Dude,
um, yeah.
I agree with that a lot, man. I came to some real realizations in this past week or a week or about two, and just processing kind of where I'm at in my life, the stuff I'm involved in, and really is it fulfilling my purpose and or even my skill set or my why at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And all to say, there's going to be some very big life changes that are happening in my life, and that things that I've come to terms with that I think are both sacrifices that I'll need to make, but also intentional time to give. So, we talked about that
Mhm.
James Clear thing and the intention of, you actually have more freedom when you're more routine. Well, with all the things that I'm involved in right now, that's something it's going to be mandatory now. Otherwise I'm going to drown kind of thing,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I'm looking at it and I'm welcoming it. I'm excited about it because one of the things, and we talked about it, man, is that we're in our 20s, and this is grind mode. This is the time where we can sacrifice, those late nights, or sacrifice, working a couple different jobs, or
Mhm.
pursuing new information or new knowledge. And I I think that's something I'm excited about, but at the same time, I don't want to. I don't know, like like we talked about the spontaneity of life, or being able to make sure you enjoy it. And so that's why
Yeah.
I'm very intentional in these coming days, even with my day to day, that I need to give myself space when I'm pulling these anywhere from 10 to 16 hour days, you know. And
Yeah.
so I think you're somebody that's also constantly on the move, and I think when we look at that, we need to build that into our schedules, So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I realized the other day, I'm like, bro, I'm in my like office most of the day,
Mm-hmm.
to like I wake up before the sun, right? So and then by the time work starts, I'm in my office, and then by the time the sun goes down, I'm still in my office, and then I'm like, yo, I need to get out of the house. I need
Yeah.
to go see, like today even I was like, you know what? I have meal prep food downstairs, but
Mm-hmm.
if I don't get out of this house right now, I'm gonna go crazy. And the excuse I used to get out of the house was to go get some food, and then just
Yeah.
come back and center myself. Um, so yeah, when you talk about that, man, that I connect with a lot of that, because for me, it's like I'm in that same space where deciding what we want to give our times to, and how we want to center ourselves as we are in the places that we're in, because we're in a good place to be in right now,
Yeah, man.
to
We're
be
we.
to be
I feel like
young, hungry, and wanting to get after it.
Yeah. Well, I would say that we are. I would say that, like, man, we're blessed in a lot of ways, and but there's this is like a perfect tie-in to a lot of the events that have happened this week, that we were speaking about earlier. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even like J. Cole, when he dropped his album, and the off-season documentary he dropped right before, um, and
That was tough.
even
That
yeah,
was
it was
hard.
yeah. I loved the documentary because he spoke really to the grind he was going through, and even through, that period where he thought he was working on his craft,
Mm-hmm.
and his friends had to do what they thought was an intervention, because they're like, listen, man, you're saying you're doing these things, but are you really doing them, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And then he had to have like a come to he basically had to, uh, he had to, like, be honest with himself. He had to have that moment of clarity, and he realized, damn, the reason why I didn't get far with this other thing I was doing, basketball,
Mm-hmm.
was because I didn't dedicate enough time, enough effort, enough energy, enough focus to it. I'm not going to let this fall to the wayside like that. And for that to be the intro before he drops the album,
Mm-hmm.
like the little mini documentary, bro, that spoke so highly of it. And then even like the little clip he put in there with 21, when they was talking about, um, like, his whole reason for calling it the off season was because he said that, basically he wanted to see how he could force himself to elevate
Mm-hmm.
before he got comfortable with the idea of walking away from the craft that he had worked so long and hard to build. You know what I mean? And it was so dope. And that the album itself, man, was so smooth. Oh,
There's a lot of themes that came up from both that little mini doc that he dropped before,
mm-hmm.
and the full album, and like you were saying, man, that intervention basically he had with his homies
Yeah.
was crazy, because it was, I mean, he basically says like, bro, y'all out here do like drinking with me, smoking with me, doing all that crazy stuff, like who are y'all to really check me on that? But like it was more of
Uh-huh.
a coming to like, yeah, we doing this stuff, but they're maybe on still on top of their stuff, or maybe they
Uh-huh.
see him as that guy, and that really is the one to succeed if he applies himself.
Yeah, he
um
said that they all had like jobs, and they were working good jobs and whatnot. Or that they were all like, basically all his friends that he went to college with, they
mm,
were all working. They had all gotten jobs and whatnot, but he was the only one like pursuing music that wasn't, um, where he wanted to be.
Yeah. Well, seeing that makes me think too, because he made a reference to about his basketball career and how he didn't succeed in it because what the work he thought he was doing by playing pickup ball
Yeah.
was enough, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing at the time that dudes were really hoopers out here. Dudes were really like in the gym addicts, like Kobe. Like
Yep.
Kobe was saying, like the kind of dudes he wants on his team, the guys that are addicted to the gym, that are constantly working on themselves. And it might have been maybe a level of exposure he didn't have, so maybe he might have been the top notch in his space, in his community, or whatever it was. So part of that is like, maybe you didn't actually know what high level achieving looks like if you weren't really exposed to it. um,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe that's a cool thing about music too, and maybe a cool thing about sports is high level achievement is on display at all times.
Yeah, that's
Like,
a good point.
you a lot of times in your 9 to 5, or the projects you might be working on, or the things you're working on, you don't get to really see the hustle all the time, or it's not something that's constantly presented to the world around you. In basketball, LeBron yamming it on somebody's head, and then
Yeah.
going back and playing defense, like lockdown defense, you know, that's
Yep.
something that's pinnacle
Ooh.
of high performance, right?
Oh snap! Yeah, no. In the album, he had a snippet of, I cannot remember his name right now, but it kills me that I can't. I'm sorry to the brother. That's such a good snippet, but in that snippet, he said you can always tell who's working because in the off season, whether it's conditioning, whether it's working hard, all the work you do comes to light. But yeah, no, it was beautiful. What were like the themes that like connected with you the most from this album?
Yeah, man. I think, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit too in other episodes, but the fact that he had to constantly challenge himself, and the way he challenged himself was by introducing others to his music, or featuring on others people's music as like
Mm-hmm.
a learning experience for inspiration. Because he was talking about how you don't want to be that rapper that's ain't got no features, or just like what did you contribute. He was making this message about like,
Mm-hmm.
what did you really contribute if you didn't feature on anyone's thing, or you didn't have any features. Like, how are you really given to the game? Or that was like a theme that I took away from what he was saying there, because it's giving back. It's like, at the same time, you're giving back, but at the same time you're learning, because the way others are doing music, and the way that people are coming up in that space creatively, are all unique. And so if you need inspiration, just look
Mm-hmm.
around you. It's like, you got dudes. Oh my god, he had 21 and Moray, bro. I don't know if y'all know who
Yo,
Moray
that
is,
that was such a good track.
bro. My
Solid.
life, this I don't know what it is, y'all, but there's a certain genre of rappers that I can't, bro. Big boy, sad boy rappers are my thing. Okay.
He said big boy, sad boy
You
rappers
know what I'm
are my
saying? Like it makes me feel gritty. I want to get after. I stay hungry. Like Moray, Rod Wave. You know what I'm saying? Like Kevin Hart when he was, or not Kevin Hart, Kevin Gates when he wasn't skinny. uh, so I might,
Rick
I
Ross
might,
when he wasn't
bro.
skinny. Yeah.
And so and it's not sad boy. It's like motivating, right? Because they just talk about their stories. They're honestly phenomenal storytellers, in my opinion, and including J Cole. Um, and and I guess one of the things, and this is shifting gears a little bit, that I was really interested in talking with you, Dev, today, was like, how do we ensure our worth? How do we ensure
Mm.
knowing that you're coming to different spaces, to different projects, different work sites, and not being one taken advantage of, and that you're being utilized to the full extent of your potential that you can give or want to give? It's a big question.
Mm. That is, man. that's
Um,
um that's a big question. And I think, man, it's weird. I rely on this heavily,
mm,
but knowing knowing what you want is going to help you delineate between something that serves you or something that helps you identify whether it's for you or not, right? And I'm thinking about it like when you're talking about knowing your worth, I feel like you got to be battle tested to like really know that,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
when you're honest with yourself about losses you've had or struggles you've had to overcome, things that you were just you're not at the par on where you should be at, right? You're able to then move forward and kind of work on those things, right? And like you're not going to get those by standing on a sideline. You're not going to get those by looking at everybody else who's competing, right? You got to put yourself in the fire, right? That's how you figure out what you're made of,
mm.
right? And you also have to look at it as when you look at it as you against you, it's easier for you to identify how far you've come because you know that you can't like short yourself, right? So one of the things that I really appreciated about J. Cole is when he had a conversation with KD and on this podcast, and on the podcast that he was on, he mentioned, "Yo, like I'm not in competition with any of these other like artists," and he
Mm,
specifically mentioned in reference to Kendrick Lamar and Drake, and he's like, "Listen, they're they are their own like intense version of themselves and they have their own like level that they're at, but he focuses on himself, right? And knowing himself and knowing his worth, he comes to the table and he brings the best version of himself to it. And I feel like that's really only come because he's been through so many like ups and downs. But I don't know,
yeah.
maybe that's not good enough under
No.
explanation.
I really love this battle tested topic, right? This battle tested
Mm-hmm.
idea of like you really got to be battle tested uh, to know your work, you're working to your fullest potential, and that your worth is being identified. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm noticing with this podcast, and as we talk to different people that I believe are
Mm-hmm.
successful in their lanes, that I believe are various thought leaders or really run in line with the mantra of the Humble Hustle Project, is
Yeah.
this aggressive nature almost to self improvement. I think there's various types of self improvement, but I definitely think there is a tendency for people to lean to certain types of self improvement
Mm-hmm.
conversations. Like for example, like our podcast is not going to be one that's going to be somebody that's like, hey, it's about taking your time. It's about finding your. We agree.
Yeah.
Like
Facts.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. But how it comes out on our end is going to be more of like, bro, get after it, get hungry. Like
Yeah.
you really going to let you like you're gonna not be the fullest potential you could possibly be, and that's just like our type of motivation. Like that's the
Mm-hmm.
type of motivation that works for us. But what I'm noticing is like everyone has their brand, everybody has their sector of motivation that works for them. Whether it is giving your time, more of a lack of a better term, kumbaya kind of conversation. Whereas, bro, I think for me, bro, it's a matter of grit. Like it's gritty. Like I want that dog. You know what I mean? I want that crazy conversation. I want DMX talking in this ear and Nipsey Hussle talking in this ear. You know what I mean?
Facts. Yo, talk that shit. Yeah.
And that's where I'm just like, I don't know how well that translates into other
Mm-hmm.
spaces. Okay, so I talk
But I
about
was,
this. You saying?
oh no, I was gonna say like I feel like it could translate to other spaces, but like in terms of like knowing yourself and in terms of like finding that that or being battle tested, working on yourself, finding that motivation, like
Mm-hmm.
being honest with it. Start for me, it starts with being honest with yourself, right? And I think he covers that even in the track, "Pride is the Devil,"
Yeah.
and like man, like that was a really good track, and he deciphers how like hearing when people say, "Yo, I'm proud of you," it hits him different, right? And even hearing about how like instead of like there are so many scenarios he lines out. And for people who haven't heard the album, please go listen to the album. We're not here just to promote it, but we're talking about it. But no, it definitely, it's definitely one of those things, or definitely one of the parts of the album where I feel like he really strongly talks about um, him. It's almost like him being honest about like something like pride and how it affects him, right? And
He
also,
says
yeah,
real quick, Dev, to touch on this pride of the devil part. He says, terrified, paranoid. I'll put you over everything to fill the void. And when you're gone, will I have anything or will I be destroyed?
ooh, yes. Oh no, no, no. Say that one more time so listeners can hear it again.
My man said, terrified, paranoid. I put you over everything to fill the void. And when you're gone, will I have anything or will I be destroyed?
Pride, man. It's fucking pride.
And two parts here. Obviously, we've had this pride conversation a little bit of like, don't let that get in the way of your personal development. Don't let that get in the way of you pursuing new lanes, new creative outlets, new things you want to work on, passion projects, hobbies you want to develop. Don't let that get in the way of how you want to show up in different spaces. Like honestly, this passion project of at the moment, the Humble Hustle project, is because this is something that fills my cup every week. Getting on the phone with somebody like Devin, getting on the phone with these different people that we're interviewing, like knowing what they're doing and what they're up to fills my cup every week because I know that people are doing good for others in the world. Knowing that they're working hard to try to figure out their own lane, knowing that we're all on this. I don't even want to call it a rat race because I feel like it's a negative connotation, but we're all like experiencing life in a way that you know is unique to us, but
We're all running
a,
our own marathon, bro.
yeah, man, it's a collective experience though. It's like we all are on a marathon, right? When
Yeah.
like yeah, man,
And
I don't
you
know.
know, one of my favorite parts about not one of my favorite parts because it's not a part of this album, but one of the verses that Nipsey Hussle said is sometimes you have to run a couple of marathons before you can run your marathon. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And it really speaks to sometimes like it really does circle back to what we're speaking about, being battle tested, right? Sometimes you have to fall so many times before and you have to learn each time you fall, right? You can't just fall down and get back up because you're not learning from it. But you have to fall down, take a moment, pause, learn from what just happened, get up, and then move forward. Having, you know, after taking a moment of pause, being different, right?
mm,
Just like how after every album, J. Cole took stride and it was different with every album he brought, right? It
mm.
was a different mentality. It's a completely different vibe.
Different point
You
in
know,
his
obviously,
life, different concerns, different was it
yeah,
different. I mean, he
the
even
warm
mentions
up was
like
different than Born Center.
one
Like there's so many,
yeah, one of them was
there's
just
so many
purely
quotes.
about getting that label deal. The next one was just about he's a father now, right? He different things, different chapters in your life, and I think yeah, man, I just agree with that sentiment heavily. All right, y'all. So this week is gonna be a little short. This week is gonna be there's been a lot going on in the world, a lot going on in our own personal lives, and I think with all the things that are happening, uh, we're going to cut it short though. However, I want you to go home with a few takeaways from today. One of them being this idea of being battle tested. I believe, similarly, even with J. Cole, being battle tested for him with this new album meant reinventing yourself in some ways, or not, rather finding inspiration in new lanes, new avenues, refusing complacency, but knowing that every time he shows up, I mean, it's been tried, it's been battle tested, it's been reviewed over and over. There's a complete and utter intentionality behind his album and what he came out with. That's my goal for people who are listening to this brief podcast today, was to move with complete intention around the projects you get involved in. Be battle hardened, be battle tested, understand that every week won't be great, but knowing that every time you show up, you're getting just a little bit better. and that you're experiencing new trials, new tribulations that, again, will continually, you know, hit notches in your armor, get you more battle tested, figure out how you want to refine your craft, refine your experience, refine your lifestyle so that you can command it in many different ways. I think that's one of the big takeaways I wanted to have you all go home with today. Devin, did you have any that you wanted to let people know about?
Yeah, man. I would say, one of the other big takeaways, um, besides being battle tested, is, being honest with yourself about, what you want and where you're going. I, for me, it's a common thing you'll hear as we speak, as you hear more episodes and as you listen to us have more conversations with some of the more, so other leaders within each community. But being self-aware is something that's really important. You can hear that throughout J. Cole's album, and that honesty with yourself allows you to learn from those lessons, right? Not only just take an L, but you know, if you get knocked down and when you take a loss, that you learn from it, right? You don't just take that L and you don't just get back up and go at it again, but
Mm,
you take a moment, you pause, and you learn from each situation so that you're not just going through aimlessly, right? Because then you're going to find yourself going in a circle. But you're as kind of like as eloquently as Jake put it, but more intentional about those things,
mm,
so that each lesson a notch, you know. If anything, that's what I would say. Like being honest with yourself allows you to be able to do that. And it's not always easy to be honest with yourself. I'll just tell you from personal experience, it's challenging. Being able to tell yourself, "Damn, I slipped there," or I really shouldn't have ate that cheat meal. Like I didn't deserve that. Like I didn't work hard to achieve that. Um, yeah, being honest with yourself is going to be super helpful. But as Jake mentioned, it's gonna be a short week for us this week. Doesn't mean we're not going to hit it hard this week, and it also doesn't mean that we won't be in the house later on this week at all. But yeah, we really appreciate rocking with us, being on this episode. Please like, share, comment on different topics you guys would like to hear. Different guests you feel like you'd like to hear from as well. And please be afraid of giving us a little constructive criticism. We're definitely working on this.
leave
And
it
if
in
you
the
haven't heard the album,
reviews.
yes,
Give us a review. Let us know
please,
how we're doing.
please, and if you haven't heard the album, don't do yourself that disservice. Go check out the off season. Right.
Yeah, man. 95 South is on repeat on my gym workout. So.
Oh man, yo, bruh, that yes.
All to say, y'all, we appreciate you. We will be in Clubhouse when we'll be talking about, making sure you're battle tested, making sure you're being true to yourself and your actions and how you're moving. Um, and we'll be back at it. We got a list of people on our guest list that's going to be coming in to interview, that I'm excited about. Right, so we're going to be doing this bi-weekly. Every other week, our goal is to have an interview with somebody, and then we're going to introduce you to some of the other guys on the team. So, um, I think that's it, man.
Yeah, deuces.
Deuces.